Hi, my name is Mark Miller, and I teach 4th grade at the iShine Learning Center. I believe teaching writing effectively starts with, and it may sound simplistic, but actually writing and carving out time throughout the day to write. We need to give kids opportunities to write, and they're not going to get better at writing without the practice of writing. So it's a process, and it takes time to be a good writer. The beginning part of the writing process is the first thing that we need to talk about. So we sort of set the tone at the beginning of the year to talk about what are the kind of the norms of the classroom. What do we expect in terms of noise, and writing obviously is a very independent activity. As you move on through the year, I think it's going to be dependent on what the genres you're teaching. We start with a mini lesson. When I teach writing, and a mini lesson kind of sets the tone. It's a short, maybe 5 to 10 minute lesson. It could be on grammar, it could be on different, if we're writing fiction, we might be talking about character setting. I work a lot with cluster writing as a brainstorming or pre-writing activity. I think it's a great way to unpack and unfold ideas for your writing project. And then we begin, and I believe in the writing process of drafting, revising, editing, and then publishing our final draft. Once I've given an assignment, I allow them to talk. There's a quote, a famous quote that said, "Writing floats on a sea of talk." They love to talk about their ideas. Sometimes you have to cut it off. After about probably 30 minutes or so, I do require quiet. Once the room is sort of settled into the assignment, which is usually within the 5 or 10 minutes after I've given my direct teaching of a mini lesson, it needs to be quiet, and you build that time. I may require 20 minutes or so at the beginning of the year, but probably by the 2nd or 3rd month, an hour of writing time where it's very quiet is expected, and it's the norm. The final part of the writing process is publishing, and kids love to share their writing. So we have an author's chair that the kids are able to get volunteer. I don't make kids share their writing. That's something that I don't do, but usually there's more than enough volunteers to want to come up and read their own writing. If they don't, then I'll read it. It's a very exciting part of the journey of writing and the process of writing. We'll do class books on some assignments where we'll take the writing and put it in a 3-ring binder, and I have in previous years actually made a book or a bound book, and we sent off to have that bound. Publishing is really important. It's the final finished product. The kids love, again, they've worked hard because they've gone through those stages. They know how hard they've worked, and they want to share that. And the kids are very excited to hear their classmates writing too. So for new teachers, I really recommend, first of all, you need to read the children's writing, and you need to show an enthusiasm for reading and being a reader of children's writing. Have them come up and read. Call small groups. I mean, I'm constantly reading their writing, so you're going to see what kinds of things they need to work on. And usually, depending on the developmental level, there's going to be some consistent things that they need work on. It's important, I think, especially with children's writing, that not every writing project has to go all the way to publishing. Not every writing project has to go all the way to editing even. I think it's more important that the kids are writing as a practice, and you need to use that sparingly, the finalization of writing, because it can get drawn out, especially research writing. I've had projects that frankly I've had to abandon because it's just gone on too long, and you start to lose the meaning of the work. So be cognizant of that when you're teaching writing. You don't have to correct every paper, you don't have to edit every paper, and nor do they. I like to do, usually about every other assignment is where we want a finished product that's really polished and nicely edited to the point of a published document. But sometimes you may need to pull that back and just get the words out, have the kids produce without it going all the way to the final published document. It's very important when you're giving feedback to use words that are non-judgmental. Obviously, it begins with good rapport in the classroom. If you have good rapport with your kids and they know that they're safe to risk their ideas being Because after all, writing is in some ways very public. I read all their work, they know that I read it, and so it's very careful the language we use, that it's not harsh or overly critical, and that it's always given with a supportive or positive comment or feedback along with a more critical one. If you emphasize writing, if you give kids the opportunity to write, you're going to get results. If I can give one piece of advice, that would be it. Set aside a time for kids to write every day, whether it's 5 minutes or an hour. I say 45 minutes to an hour. That's the minimum of what you want to give kids. If you give them that opportunity time through this practice of writing, they're going to learn how to express themselves, and that's going to carry through to the other areas of the curriculum. When a student feels success through writing, is that they actually feel motivated and engaged in the writing process, that they get excited about it. The best thing that I've seen in my classroom, I know that I've reached them and hooked them, is because they beg me to write. They can't wait for writing. They're asking me, are we going to write? When are we going to free write again? That's a big one. But that's how I know that I've succeeded, that I've hooked those kids and got them interested, motivated, and engaged in the writing process because they want to do it.